In past, architecture and technology evolved in search of comfort, leisure, and control over environment. But in present day, evolution is heading in search of sustainable environment. Power opted solutions evolved and formed a new segment called renewable energy resources. Primary energy consumption by non-renewable resources is still greater than renewable resources. Similarly, in present day condition, structural solutions begin to adapt active and passive design strategies. These strategies can lead us to depend less on non-renewable energy resources. Active design strategies usually consist of heating and cooling systems. This can be directly related to power opted solutions. With help of renewable resources, energy of these active systems can be generated green and clean. Future of HVAC might be more compact, energy efficient, and could stack on each other as per demand. They might even use stored solar powers and depend less on non-renewable resources. Passive strategy is an approach to building design that uses building architecture to minimize energy consumption. Passive strategies are practiced in different ways. Doshi's previous work experience with Corbusier and Kahn have helped him to succeed in creating architecture for people and sustainable environment. His passive strategies are totally based on ideas of space, form, light, ventilation, structure, and interrelation of culture and architecture.
In India, house is the most precious thing in our culture. It's not a shelter, it's a home. Culture breeds there. Life breeds there. Tolerance breeds there. Sharing breeds there. All the values that we have come because when there is a restraint, so you learn to cooperate and you learn to grow and you enrich yourself. The most important thing that I learned in our house in India was transformation of the space, which otherwise is used for something. But suddenly it becomes a sacred place or a precious place. So that is all the nuances of life. And I think that has influenced my work in terms of the notion of form, structure, and theory.
In works of Tom Kundig, mechanization plays important and multiple roles in creation of sustainable environment. Mechanized components can be used for natural light ventilation and connecting inside with outside. It also leads to minimalistic approach and helps structure to transform from one space to another space, which reduces building footprint.
Your questions are so great because technology obviously has changed the way we do architecture, and it will continue to change how we do architecture. I think, but there's still some fundamentals that remain the same. We're still human beings. We're still on a certain scale, a certain size, and a certain sort of need, and how we flow. And regardless if it's a huge building or a very small building, it's still the same. You still have the same spaceship in a way that moves around this place. So there's a lot of fundamentals that will remain true. The fundamental that I believe, and I hope this isn't an old guy saying that this is the only way to do architecture, but I do think that I've recognized that as technology comes into our industry, if you're not drawing at a certain point in the design, if you're not making a very literal link to the end of your finger and making the changes, you lose a certain nuance in the building. And I can't tell you what it is. I can just tell you that sometimes I see when a building is drawn at some point, at the beginning, it actually becomes a better building ultimately. At some point, it goes into this digital world, of course.
These advanced 3D visualization softwares and simulators are extremely helpful to understand, speculate, and modify design at its conceptual stages. These softwares develop real-time renders for natural daylight, understand solar heat gain, and wind flow analysis. Apart from energy simulations, these building information modeling softwares also analyze the limits and failure of structures. This could benefit any unorthodox structural solution. If traditional and mechanized passive strategies take opportunity to collaborate with advanced technology, future buildings could create more realistic and calculative sustainable buildings, which will be coexisting with its culture. Interference of technology in future might change entire definition of architecture and could characterize it in individualism, adaptation, and mass production. Present-day condition of social distancing from each other can shift dense and culture-oriented habitats also into isolation. This can be an opportunity to create self-reliant structures. Self-reliant in terms of producing energy and food. Industrial evolution led to mass production for many products. Similarly, introduction of 3D printing in building construction can be beneficial to mass-produce small and sustainable homes, which can consume less time to build and zero impact on environment. Many of them are printed with only one type of material. Most of them are light and water resistant, which will be helpful in future to move. During worst condition on Earth, the feature to move building could turn into reality of human habitat in outer space, which will create its own 3D printed architecture style, environment, and culture over there. Role of 3D printing and advanced technology could hold a critical position in adapting and creating habitat for unstable climate conditions in future. Here, adaptive technology could be a new vernacular. As we know, everything has its advantage and disadvantage. Disadvantage of 3D printing is lack of materiality, which further leads to lack of cultural identity, due to which experiential quality in every 3D printed building remains constant. So, these facts lead us to question, what will be the future definition of architecture? Will it be culturally oriented, where transition of space matters with quantitative analysis of impact on environment? Or will it be mass-produced, isolated and self-reliant structures which can adapt any unstable climatic conditions? Or combination of both? It is clear that future possibilities of architecture definition is only the way to predict future impacts on environment. Let's see whether architecture melts the entire ice or try to preserve it with help of technology.